What's going on, everyone? So I saw somebody share this post of Nathan that says someone needs to come get Cam Whitmore out from the G League. If the Houston Rockets don't have minutes for him, that's fine because the team is winning at an excellent pace, but he's far too talented of a shooter and scorer. He needs NBA reps. And I agree, right? I think Cam Whitmore is a guy that has all the potential in the world. He's still 20 years old. Look, he's raw. He's not people thought he was going to be a guy that come in and just kind of take over the league, right? However, I do think he's a guy that definitely needs some development. Definitely is probably a couple years away from being a legit, starting level, the guy that you can envision Cam Whitmore to be. But I do think he's a guy that can make an impact and be a real kind of key piece, in a bench role as just a scoring option off the bench. He's a guy I could see on any given night go just give you a 20 piece, right? Maybe even 25, something like that. But I do think he's going to have his inconsistencies. Now, if I'm being honest, I think the best place for him is probably one of the bad teams, or a team that wants to rebuild and hit the reset button and are just okay with him playing, 35 minutes a game and just letting him kind of just have his good games, have his bad games, have his hiccups and everything in between, right? I do think that that's probably the best place. So if you're a team like the Bulls, right, and you're really going to sell the farm and you're going to sell everything and you're just going to hit the reset button, right? If you can get some assets or whatever, can you turn some of those things into a Cam Whitmore? Can you turn a Io or something like that to where it's okay, we got Giddey, we got Kobe White, we got these guys something like that, or a Hornets team or, a Raptors or a Wizards, any of these bad teams. Jazz is another team. Actually, Utah, I think he makes a lot of sense for. But can a team come and save this guy? The other team, of course, which I'm sure you could tell because this is a Laker channel, would be the Lakers. I think the Lakers, if they could pull something off, he's what we need. Not really right now. I don't know how much of an impact he'd have right now, if I'm being honest, but as particularly a future piece, and he's the guy that we should have drafted, right? He just had the injury issues and then the character issues leading into the draft, so he kind of, ended up falling to where he did. But he was the guy that many people are just that's, they messed up, right? But again, Cam Whitmore, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been consistent. And Houston they really don't have a need for him. They have several guys already that basically give you they drafted Cam Whitmore because he was the best player available at the time, and he was looked at as a lottery talent then, right? But he's a guy that he's not going to get a real opportunity in Houston, and chances are he's probably going to get traded at some point regardless. But if you can kind of buy low on him now, right, and kind of use hey, dude, the guy's not even on your roster. You're playing him in the G League, right? And kind of do something to where, you can go get a Cam Whitmore. Because he still this season he's making $3.3 million. Then he has a club option next year and then for $3.5. And then a club option in 2026, 2027 for $5.4 million. So he's dirt cheap, right? You could even, with Houston, I mean, you'd have to attach something to it. But, could you just give them Jalen Hood Schifino as salary relief? Hey, we already declined Jalen Hood Schifino. He's going to be a free agent after the season. So you can do whatever you want, right? Take him, let him fall off the books, or look to trade him elsewhere or whatever. Or maybe work it out with 3-team trade or whatever, right? There's options there. Like I said, Lakers would have to do more than just, they're not just going to swap Jalen Hood Schifino for, Cam Whitmore. But also, what's the cost? Right? Because I don't think any team's giving up a first for him. Right? I don't see a team giving up a first for him just because, again, he's not producing. He's not a guy that, he's had injury. There's still a lot of questions with Cam Whitmore. Right? The potential's there. The upside there. He's still very young at 20 years old. Right? And, the Lakers taking Jalen Schifino, and they're essentially just going to get rid of him at this point. They're going to he's either going to be salary filler, in a trade, or they're just going to let his money fall off the books. I do not see him being a Laker after next season. So yes, I do think it was a dud. I still think Jalen Schifino has the potential to evolve into a legit player, right? But I think he needs to, again, I think he's a guy that needs to go to, like Utah supposedly has had some interest in him. Like, I think that would be perfect, right? You can go to a team that's bad, play, 25, 30 minutes a game and not care, right? Like, great example, so many people like Scottie Pippen Jr. Why did Scottie Pippen Jr., why did Lakers let him go? And Jay Huff and that. Because they went to a team that was able to allow them to figure it out, right? Like last year, Memphis was a team that was in full rebuild mode, right? Memphis was a team that, or not rebuild mode, tank mode, right? They were a team that was in full tank mode, not rebuild mode, right? And they were tanking for a draft pick, which led to Zach Edey. But they were willing to let a Scottie Pippen Jr. and a Jay Huff play 35, 40 minutes a game. And guess what? They had games where they were like ridiculously bad. Where like Scottie Pippen Jr. has like more turnovers than points and just terrible. Right? But then he had games where he was really good. But again, Memphis was in a position where they could let that play out, where they didn't have to worry about like, oh, well, what do we do? Right? Like, no, like they wanted to lose games. They were fine with it. Right? And now look, now they're actually key contributors on a team that's winning. Right? I could see something similar for like a Jalen Schifino. Right? Like, don't be shocked if Jalen Schifino goes to a bad team and in like 2 years is a decent player, like at least a rotation player. And everyone's going to be like, oh, like, look, another example. And it's just because the Lakers aren't in the field for developing guys. They're not patient enough. Us as fans, we're not patient enough. Right? Even Cam Whitmore. We could go get Cam Whitmore. Like, let's say we do end up trading for Cam Whitmore. If he's not great immediately, people are going to be like, oh, that was stupid. Why'd you go get Cam Whitmore? Because he's a 20-year-old, 6'7", forward that is hyper athletic and can be a bucket getter and shoot and do all those things. And he could eventually become that. Right? Like, that's the idea. Now, again, Cam Whitmore is not like a highlighted trade piece. I want to make that clear. Like, he's not a guy that I want to, like, oh, we got Cam Whitmore, that's it. Lakers are going to... No, for me, it would be like, you make the moves for, the roster contention or whatever. So, let's say you go do the Nets trade, right? Boom, do all that stuff. And then now you got your roster intact. You got your pieces in. And it's like, okay, well, we still have like pick swaps and a couple seconds or whatever, right? Like, could you go, like, especially, like, let's say you do still have Jalen Schifino, or, maybe you're taking a Christian Wood or something like that, right? And it's like you're turning that and a pick swap or something into a Cam Whitmore, sure, right? Or a couple seconds or something like that. I don't think anybody would trade a first for him, just because, again, he is a project. He has not been great. I mean, even in Summer League, he had his games where he was great, but he had a lot of games that were duds. I mean, I was at a few of those games where he was bad. And, again, he's 20 years old, right? But I like him a lot as just like a future piece that you can just grab, kind of develop, play him in spots, right? Because I do think he's a guy that fits a need, give you some athleticism out on, like, the Lakers need a guy like him, right? Like, the hope is that Maxwell Lewis kind of turns into a guy like a Cam Whitmore, but he hasn't really panned out yet. Now, again, maybe he does. He's still young too, but he's a guy that he hasn't really panned out yet. Cam Whitmore, I think he's worth at least the flyer, right? And if you can kind of buy low on Cam Whitmore, kind of take the chance, why not, right? Especially if there is any type of potential that they might trade him, which there are some rumors, nothing like crazy. Like, it doesn't look like they're like shopping him, but there are some like news report, like Sports Illustrated said Cam Whitmore could require a new home and stuff. So again, there's a couple things that have came on about a potential, like, hey, maybe they'll look to trade him. But if I'm being honest, I don't I don't think that they're in a rush to do it. I don't think it's something that they necessarily do. But for Cam Whitmore's sake, right? Because I don't know where he slots in. You know, like the Rockets are a team that they just have an abundance of guys like Cam Whitmore. I mean, it's one of the things we even talked about when they drafted him, right? Which I don't blame Houston for drafting him because he was the best player available, right? But where does he fit in on this team, right? Like you got Tari Eason, right? You got Jalen Green. You got multiple guys that are able to fill in and play that role. I mean, even like, you got Jabari Smith, Amon Thompson, right? Like, you have multiple guys that are all going to fit in and play the role, if not similar role to what you're looking for Cam Whitmore to play. I don't see where he fits in, if I'm being honest. But I do think it would be, it'd be quite the funny acquisition, right? Because it's like you should have took him and you didn't, And I'm sure fans, I'm sure I'm going to even see some comments on this video. People that are like, "Why would you trade for a guy when you could have drafted him?" and stuff. Look, everyone, if everybody drafted correctly, if every draft pick turned out to be a star, right? Like no one would ever trade picks. No one would ever do anything, right? It's just like it's such a lottery shoot. You never know. Right, Houston drafted him, and he's doing nothing. He can't even crack the rotation, right? So, it's one of those things where it's like, you if you're in a position where you can get him at a reasonable price, I think you at least try. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of going and snagging a Cam Whitmore? Do you think that, like, yeah, if you can get him cheap enough, right? Again, I'm not giving like an unprotected first or anything like that for it. Like a pick swap, couple seconds, sure, right? And like I would want to go do some other moves. I want to go make some other trades, right? But if you can get a Cam Whitmore, I think you take the flyer, right? There are injury risks. He is in the G League, right? Like there's leverage there, in my opinion, if you're the Lakers, but. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.